Guys, I decided to do a video versus a live stream, just because I have some notes and I didn't want to get distracted by anyone coming on here asking questions or just being a distraction. Anyway, um, now I will say for the record, and this is first and foremost, um, even though I will be talking about mental health, I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist or doctor, diagnostician, clinician, or anyone that can diagnose someone. Even if I was, you wouldn't really be able to diagnose someone based on a few videos. So right off the bat, I am saying that I cannot tell you whether this person claims to have DID, whether she has it, whether she doesn't, whether she's faking, whether she's not. I'm just here to point out a little bit of inconsistencies. They're rather confusing to me, and they don't typically follow the typical DID format. They don't typically follow the format of being logical. And I'm by no means an expert on DID. I'm learning things every day based on, some of the research that I've seen. Now, anything I share about myself, again, most people out there are not a diagnostician, they're not psychiatrists, psychologists, clinical psychologists, or doctors, and even if so, they wouldn't be able to diagnose anyone just based off of a YouTube video, unless they knew a little bit more about the person's background, unless they knew the person on a personal level. So by no means am I saying that this person is faking, that this person actually has what they're claiming to have. Again, because I am not qualified to do that, nor is anyone else, just based off of YouTube videos. So that's first and foremost. This is just some notes I've taken on her videos, just so that I didn't forget them. I didn't want to do like a reaction video where I had her video and then stopped and started, just because it takes a lot of editing. And again, you can easily get distracted. Also, like I said, anything I share about myself, again, you can choose to believe it, you can choose not to. I know the people that don't like me will probably still not like me after the video. The people that like me, I'm not trying to convince you either way. Like I said, I don't know if I'll have the comments on or not. It just depends on when I upload it, how long it is. This is just kind of my opinion on it. Just some things that I've noticed that are interesting. A lot of the DID community is in an uproar over how she is portraying DID, how she is going after others who claim to have it, how she's kind of mimicking some of their similarities, and then kind of going about business after saying how torn up she is. And again, things that I share about myself are just my own experiences. I don't speak for anyone else in regards to their experiences with DID, or other mental health issues. Um, so there's that. Just putting that out there first and foremost, as a disclaimer, because I don't want someone accusing me of saying, "Well, you're not qualified. You're not." I'm very aware. But like in the words of Trisha Paydas, everyone's got an opinion. So I'm giving mine, based on just some of the things that I've seen. Now, I did take a few notes. Now, if you see me doing this, I'm visually impaired. Also, my hand-eye coordination is very bad, so just because this is in my writing does not mean that I can be able to read it. So if you see me pause, it's just because I'm trying to make out what I wrote. So without further ado, let's get into my thoughts on her video. So Trish did a video about a week ago, and first I wanted to see where she was going with this, so I didn't make a reaction video as fast as some of the other people in the DID community or other communities, just because I wanted to see where she was going with this. I wanted to see if there was more or less, and just gauge reactions. So there was that. So let's get into her video. She starts off right off the bat saying that she self-diagnosed herself based on watching other YouTubers. Now, just like WebMD, you should probably never self-diagnose yourself with any mental disorder, any physical disorder. It leads to hysteria. It can lead to you thinking that you have something you don't. It can also lead to the power of suggestion. If I say that, if you have, some rare disorder, just by saying, oh, well, if you cough, you have some rare exotic disease only found in Panama, you might believe it, based on some general symptoms you have. It's just the power of suggestion. So that might be what is happening here. Again, I'm not trying to, I don't know this person in real life. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing. So that could be a reason why she believes she has DID. But that being said, she also says that she's known this since she was about 7, that her alters are more in line with characteristics, like she has one that is confident because she's not confident. She has one that is angry because she's not angry. One that lashes out. It almost reminds me of like the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out, where you have different personifications of your base emotions, your anger, your love, your happiness, your sadness. So again, those are not alters, those are not identities, those are moods. Just because I am happy doesn't mean that I'm another person. Just because I'm very sad or angry doesn't mean that it's an alter. It's just a mood. She also names them herself. Normally, unless there's very much co-consciousness, typically the host does not name an alter. An alter has their own identity and comes out with their own name or their own identity and how they feel they are. So she says that she's had this since she was about 7 years old. Now, normally, DID stems from intense trauma in early childhood, and because the brain needs a very strong coping mechanism, sometimes it will detach and disassociate. I don't mean to detach, that sounded bad, but it will split and disassociate into an alter or a split, which will hold those emotions, those memories. A lot of times the host will not be able to access those type of memories. Sometimes there will be a protector. Most of the time there will be a protector, alter, that comes out to protect the host from a situation that is very traumatic. But okay, still, let's go back to Trish. She says that she has known since she was about 7, and she used to tell people that she had a twin named Trixie, who was actually an alter. Now, by 18 to 24 months, unless there is a cognitive, intellectual, or developmental delay, a typical child should be able to understand self from others. So, if I look in a mirror, I should be able to smile and know that that's not another person smiling at me, that's myself. This is when that develops. Just in a physical aspect. And of course, the development is, others can have different emotions than me, others can have different viewpoints. That goes further along the developmental lines of typical childhood development. Now, I did stress that, like I said, unless there is a developmental, whether there is a cognition or intellectual delay somewhere, and those three are very different in components. One can be, for example, cognitive, if the person has a learning, severe learning or processing issue where they're not able to recognize themselves, or they're not able to recognize key components. This could be something like visual, like for me, a developmental delay for me is that I'm unable to see. So I haven't had the experiences that someone who has better vision than me experiences. So some of my some things are delayed because I cannot see. Then there's cognitive, which again is learning. So that would be if I had a learning disorder. I think I mixed those two up. I'm sorry. Developmental would be if I had not had an experience because of some factor, whether it be physical, whether it be environmental, like, another example of developmental would be people who are not exposed to a mirror. So you have like some tribes in the Amazon who have never seen a mirror before. So when they see themselves in the mirror for the first time, it's very jarring. They don't automatically recognize that is them. That would be also if, a child wasn't exposed to a mirror, or, they had a house that didn't have mirrors, or, they were blind for, their early childhood, things like that. Those would be developmental delays. Um, then there's your processing or your cognitives, your learning disabilities, um, your ability to encode the information. So you might be able to see it, but you can't encode it. So that would be a cognitive disability. Your learning disabilities, your dyslexia, your any disability like that. And then you have your intellectual disabilities, which are based on your IQ, or can be traced to your IQ. So if you have very low IQ, if you have a disability that causes an intellectual disability, you might, the old term used to be MR, or mentally challenged, mental retardation, and that just means a slowing of those faculties, not that they're dumb or stupid in any way. It's disability. Trisha Paydas doesn't strike me as having any of those, but again, I was not with her during her formative years, nor do I know any of her abilities, non-abilities, things like that. But if she was in school at 7 and could not know the difference between herself and hold on. Herself, I lost track of the dog barked and I lost track of time. Then there would be an issue that she would probably share with people, because that's how she is. Hold on, let me make sure the dog's okay. He just went outside. So, okay, so we kind of segued into developmental, cognitive, or intellectual delays. So, getting back to Trish. So, she was saying that she would tell people that she has a twin. Well, kids also know the difference at 7, the difference between imaginary and reality. If someone says, oh, I have an imaginary friend, they know it's imaginary. There's not a disconnect. If you say, I have an imaginary friend and this is my brother or sister or imaginary cousin, the child knows it's imaginary, that it's from their mind. If they didn't, again, they would be some red flags, and teachers would definitely take notice if Trish saw somebody that was not there and called it her twin. Like I said, if you ask young kids, did that really happen, or is that a story? They'll normally tell you the truth. At that young developmental age, because they do understand the difference between a story and the truth. So, again, she said that Trixie basically was her twin at 7. She also says that Trixie picks out the outfits and is a little slutty and promiscuous and lies and does things like that, and she's only 10 years old. Again, you might have an alter who is a child who's promiscuous, but again, that would lead me to think that there's more going on to the story. But again, since I wasn't around Trish during those formative years, I don't know. Let's see here. She talks about them as if they are feelings. So, she says this altar is happy, and this altar is confident, and this altar is this. Almost like she compartmentalizes mood. Almost like Inside Out, the movie. Which is not typical of alter behavior. Because they're identities, they're not moods. She also says that, this is the altar that has the anger, so every time I'm angry and lash out at people, it's actually not me, it's this other altar. Typically, you won't have that, and even if you did, the host always has to take responsibility for an altar's behavior. It's just called alter accountability. So, for example, let's say I had an altar that was triggered by something, and I just lashed out, and I was like, you know what? This and this and this, and, this altar went off. Hey, buddy. Even if I was not aware at the time, even if it was a trigger, even if it was something like that, I would have to take responsibility. I would have to apologize. I would have to own up to it instead of just saying, it wasn't me, it was Sandy or whoever. So that's a little different. Let's see here. So she also has two named Tyson and Tierney. Again, one is sensitive and one has a sense of identity, sexuality, and one pretty much is like a bully onto that altar. Again, there would be, you might have alters disagree, but an altar abusing another altar, I've never heard of it, but then again, there's a lot of things I haven't heard of. It seems a little bit unusual. But she also says that these are the two altars responsible for all her relationships having issues, losing all her relationships. She says that Tierney just yells and lashes out at people, and Tyson just cries and is very needy. It sounds like those are insecurities she has on herself. And again, she's kind of alter blaming to take some of the heat off her. She also uses this to explain why she can't stay on a diet. She says that her youngest alter, who's been with her again since she was a child, is someone named Gibraltar, and that this altar doesn't have any identity other than to eat. And she also shows this on camera, and I'll get into that. This video is going a little longer, I'm sorry. So she says that they're not co-conscious, that he cannot control his appetite, and so even after she eats something, he will go and eat again. He doesn't know when he's full. But then she also says that when she's eating, sometimes she'll order an extra meal for that altar, and claims that he has the eating disorder. But if you're ordering food for this other altar, you're doing the action, not them. So that's again, and then saying that they're the reason that they don't stay on their diet because he comes out and he eats all the food afterwards, and she can't control it. If you can't control this altar, then why are you ordering food for that altar? It doesn't make sense. She talks about T being the confident one. Let me close this so the dog doesn't keep going out. Go on. Hold on. Go. Okay. Thank you. Come on. Go. All right, you can stay. Sorry. She talks about T, who again holds all her confidence, things like that. But that some of her alters go away when they have a trauma. So typically it goes, normal, typical host situation, and then a trauma will happen, and from that trauma, because the person needs to cope and survive, will split off, and so you'll have an alter. It's not that you'll have an alter and then a trauma will make that alter go away, because that's the whole point of the system, as you will. It's there as a support system for the host so that they can handle whatever is going on, or handle the triggers at least, that would lead to them being re-traumatized. For an example, I'll just use something in my example. I posted when I got my injections for Botox. That's what that was for. And so I had injections in the neck, injections in different parts of the body, and some of the injections had to be in the groin area. That being very traumatic for me, very triggering, based on things that have happened in the past. It is very triggering, so an alter might come out at that point, just to protect the host from another trauma, or being re-traumatized. And so, like I said, I always have to be conscious of those and make sure that I do things that self-soothe so that I can deal with those without being triggered so badly. So, taking something that reminds me that it's going to be okay, closing my eyes, deep breaths, maybe holding something soft, having someone there to hold your hand, having someone walk you through it, support animals, things like that. My little support buddies running around here. So yeah, that was a little different. Let's see. So this is the last thing here, which was, I think this is going way too long. I was trying to make this under 30 minutes, but she says that she's been diagnosed with several traits of various things, like schizophrenia, like bipolar, like borderline depression. And I think those are maybe people in the comments, or people from her past. I don't know if that's from a medical professional. Now, I know, and I'm trying not to screw this up, but bipolar and schizophrenia combined are known as schizoaffective disorder. And so the fact that she didn't know that leads me to believe that she probably has been not formally diagnosed. Plus, I mean, anyone can have traits of something. And the difference between schizophrenia, because I don't think she knows this, and someone with dissociative identity disorder is that schizophrenia, the main component of it is a split from reality. So that is, the person is not based in reality, or will experience things not based in reality. That might be visual, auditory or visual hallucinations that are from the mind. They're not real to the outside world. Don't ruin my blinds, please. And then there's dissociative identity disorder, where the person is always in reality. It's the brain's coping mechanism to deal with the trauma of that reality. And so those are the main differences between the two. Now, I was looking, because she says that, maybe they're confused and they thought I was schizophrenia or schizophrenic. But I was actually, it was actually DID. Now, perhaps maybe she was hearing the alters maybe in the background, and might have thought they were auditory hallucinations. That's the only way I could see one being mistaken for the other. But that would be pretty rare. And again, that would need to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist. Then she states that, she doesn't even know if there's any medications for DID or schizophrenia, or any of the traits that she claims to have. Well, again, there is definitely medication for schizophrenia. It is imperative that they take medication for the safety of themselves and others. Not to say that people with schizophrenia are dangerous. It's mainly to protect themselves. Borderline personality disorder. There are medications for that, just to regulate the hormones. That's also the same with bipolar. Now, you would have to go to a doctor and be evaluated to know what medication works best. For DID, I don't think that there is something, and again, I don't know. I don't think that there is an actual script designed for people with DID. However, medication that might lower anxiety levels, so that they can better cope and process things. Might be something that someone dealing with that takes just to help. And then before I go, I gotta talk about the switching video that I couldn't help it. I laughed. I normally don't laugh at Trish, but that was just hilarious. She claims that she doesn't know when she switches, even though she did a OnlyFans or something with a switching video to make money. And then she did this hidden camera thing, which was the worst acting I have ever seen. Again, I'm not saying she doesn't have anything. I'm just saying this just looked very strange. She has a camera set up in her kitchen, and it's in the middle of the kitchen. It doesn't look like it's for a cooking video or anything. It looks like a hidden camera, but when the camera starts, she's center stage of her kitchen. She's in the center of her kitchen. And the second it starts, she switches. There's no trigger, there's nothing emotional that might elicit a trigger. She just has her Dunkin' Donuts cup. She walks up to the refrigerator and throws it down, like, to start the scene. There's nothing in the cup, it's empty. But she throws the cup down and then says, "I'm thirsty." Well, if you're thirsty, then why would you throw the cup down? That doesn't even make logical sense when the thing for water was right there. And then she says, "I'm hungry." Now, if said alter didn't know they were being recorded, why do they have an outer monologue? Why are they saying, "I'm hungry"? Normally, if I'm hungry, I don't announce it to the refrigerator. I just go get something to eat. The way she flings the doors open is very strange. Kind of like she's doing the motion, but she's really not looking. She just kind of flings it, and then the freezer is shut, and then she holds the other refrigerator door open. Doesn't get anything out of there. Closes it, says she's hungry again. Grabs a few things from the pantry. One being a bag of Doritos. And she takes 3 Doritos, basically shoves them in her mouth, basically one at a time, and then opens up a fruit by the foot, and eats it basically by the fistful. She doesn't take a bite out of it. She literally shoves it in her mouth. And then suddenly comes to before she can actually swallow the fruit by the foot. Now, and then says how much her stomach hurts. One, why would your stomach hurt from only eating 3 Doritos? Unless you're allergic. Why would you eat a fruit by the foot like that and not eat it? If the whole point of that alter's existence is to eat, why would he put something in his mouth and then not finish the food? Again, that makes no logical sense. And then while this is happening, she's eating the Doritos, but she's pacing back and forth in front of the camera, up and down, and side to side. Almost like a stammer. Now, if the alter didn't know it was being recorded, why does it keep going up to the camera? If suddenly I knew that I was being recorded, I would not go up to the camera and act like I didn't see it. It's visual, it's there. She didn't say this alter was blind. And like I said, it goes right up to the camera. Doesn't acknowledge the camera, doesn't try and hide from the camera, doesn't react, doesn't do anything with the camera. So for her to say the alter was caught on tape, it's kind of misleading, kind of silly. And like I said, she comes back to her sense of self within a few seconds and says, "Oh, ew," like she doesn't like the fruit by the foot. Now the reason why I just don't understand eating the fruit by the foot that way, not actually eating it, just kind of shoving it in your mouth and then taking it out and throwing it away. If the whole point of this alter is having an insatiable appetite, why would he just put things in his mouth and not eat them? Why did she say she had a terrible stomachache after pretty much eating just 3 Doritos? She didn't eat like a massive amount of food. She didn't even finish the fruit by the foot that was in her mouth. And then act surprised at the cups on the floor. "Oh, my water." Again, so if the alter was actually thirsty, it would have gotten something to drink. If the alter was actually hungry, it would have actually eaten more than just a few bites of something, and not finish what was in its mouth. The video was just bizarre. And then, of course, she goes on in other videos saying that, she's afraid of her alters, she doesn't understand why they're there, the controversial ones frighten her. There's even part of the video, I forgot to mention this, where she's saying, I have no conscience of when these happen, and then she goes into another alter. She freezes, starts moving her hands, saying, this person says I'm crazy, and I'm crazy, and I'm this and that, and then goes into a secondary, younger alter, again, with no triggers, who has a difference of opinion, who is kind of mimicking dissociate DID, her handle, I can't pronounce it properly. Her video, when she was on Anthony Padilla's, where she was kind of switched and kind of said, how sometimes it scares her and, things like that. So she kind of mimicked that type of response, and then right afterwards said, "Oh, well, I think it's obvious that I have DID. But if you're not co-conscious of your alters, how can you switch and then say, well, I think it's obvious?" Almost like, okay, after that performance, you can see that I have it. When there's never been any sort of switches like that before. Now, me personally, I've been around, but I haven't really made any videos ever since the one where I had the injections, only because it was rather traumatizing, and I didn't want to risk talking about it or being triggered and switching on camera, because it is rather embarrassing. I unfortunately have had that issue, and I don't want to repeat it again. So I try to, again, do things that are not online. Sometimes I'll watch a movie that is happy or that it's distracting, so that it kind of calms you down. Self-soothing techniques and self-care is very important, so that you don't have a whole bunch of switches or issues of losing time. And it's just managing care. So I think I've talked enough about this. I know that this is a little longer than I wanted to go into. I tried to stay on topic. I think at the beginning I might have been a little nervous. I want to know what you think about it. If comments are on, if not, that's okay. Again, if you don't have anything nice to say, I would suggest you not say anything at all. But again, if your comment is really ugly, it just might get deleted. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything regarding myself. I'm not trying to convince you of anything regarding Trisha Paydas. I'm just sharing some of my struggles, and how they seem to be out of line with Trisha's logic, with people with DID. I also don't like the fact that even though I have no proof of this, Trisha's made a video trying to say that dissociative DID is faking, even though that girl's entire platform is on raising awareness on DID. Sorry, I'm forgetting to look at the camera just because I'm trying to remember things. Lost my train of thought. Oh, so there's a video that Trisha Paydas is having in one of her videos that's saying, that this girl is faking, but the thing is that the other girl didn't go after Trisha Paydas. She was giving her opinion. She said that she felt attacked by her. She didn't like the misinformation that Trisha Paydas was sending out. And Trish did a video saying how she felt attacked, how she felt, that this girl was out of line. Basically, again, mimicking the other girl, and then making a bullying video saying how she fakes it, and the entire platform for dissociative DID is raising awareness, and she does advocate going to specialists, going to doctors, going to people for mental health. She does not just do it for entertainment value. And she's very big in the community, so Trish has this under a name called Tatiana, who I'm sure she'll say, oh, this is an alter, this isn't me. But again, you're putting it on your main channel, so you're basically trolling within a troll account. And like I said, I think it's a very poor taste. And I think that she's just doing more damage to herself. And then the other day when I saw her video, she's saying how, she's just so depressed over everything and people not believing her, that, she hasn't bathed in a while, and she's, just really being in a depressive state. And the next day she's trying on lingerie and talking about vibrators in a very happy, perky way, as if nothing happened. Again, not typical behavior. I think she's trying to just skirt the issues. And like I said, I just don't understand that. So again, I will go ahead and put this up. I don't know if I'll have comments, depending on whether it lets me, because this is rather a long video. But again, please be nice. If you can't be nice, just don't say anything at all. And I will talk to you next time. I will probably not be around, just because, like I said, I'm still healing from the injections, physically and emotionally, and also just a time to be with family right now, and not worry about the dramas of online. So, it is what it is. So thank you for listening to me. If you're still here this long, I'm sorry for such a long video.